Hey, what's up YouTube? In this video, I'll be showing you how to make another YouTuber statue. This time, I'll be showing you how to make Thinknoodles. Oh, and by the way, just in case you have any more YouTube related needs, feel free to check out the card system and the link down below in the description for my YouTuber statue tutorials playlist. There is a lot of them in there. Moving on, if you want to make Thinknoodles, here's what you're going to need. You will need some block of diamond. Also, grab yourself some white stained clay. And also grab yourself some cyan stained clay. Then grab some black wool, dark grey wool, light grey wool, white wool. You'll also need some brown wool, and also grab yourself some cyan wool. And I believe that we're going to need even more materials later on, but for now, these are all we can carry. So once you have each one of these right here, and once you've figured out where you want to make it, I'll be making it right here, you're going to want to kick off your statue with this sequence of blocks in a row on the floor. Do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey to give you a row which should look exactly like this. Perfect. That is the base row of your statue. Once you've got that taken care of, this is what you want to do for row number 2. Do an entire row of brown wool, so just stack that directly on top of the first row. Then for the next row, going from left to right, do 1 brown wool, 2 white, 2 brown, 2 white, 1 brown. For the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. For the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan clay. Then for the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan stained clay. For the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. And for the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. For the next row, do 2 white wool in the 2 center spots of the row, and then do black wool everywhere else. Then for the next row, going from left to right, do 1 light grey, 1 cyan clay, 1 cyan, 2 diamond, 1 cyan, 1 cyan clay, and finally 1 light grey wool. Then for the next 8 rows, do this sequence of blocks. Do 1 cyan clay, 2 regular cyan, 2 block of diamond, 2 regular cyan, then 1 cyan stained clay. And that's for 8, by the way, guys. So that'll be the first one. Then this will be the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. So all you want to do is just raise up each one of those blocks with their respective materials and just raise them up until you have done 8 rows of the same. So we're now just doing that. We've got a little bit of cyan on this side to do and a little bit more cyan stained clay. So you want to end up with something that should look exactly like this. Perfect. For the next row, going from left to right, do 2 cyan, 1 block of diamond, 2 white stained clay, 1 diamond, 2 cyan. And for the final row of the torso, do 1 cyan, 1 diamond, 4 white stained clay, 1 diamond, 1 cyan, to give you something which should look in total a little bit like this. Perfect. Now what we have to do, now that we've got the legs and the torso, most of the torso completed, all we have to do now is add on the arms. So I want you guys now to come all the way up to the top right hand corner of the statue so far, so this cyan wall that we have right here, and going right of this cyan wall, do 4 block of diamond going right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we're just going to build underneath this row of 4 block of diamond, and we'll just go from left to right where necessary and build in rows where necessary as well. So for the second row coming down, do 1 diamond, 2 cyan clay, 1 diamond. For the next 2 rows, do 2 solid rows of cyan clay, so that's 1 and 2. Then for the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. For the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. Then do 2 rows of white stained clay, 1 and 2. Then for the next 2 rows, do 3 dark grey, followed by 1 cyan stained clay. And like I said, that's for 2 rows, so do it to the first, then do it to the second. And now for the final 2 rows of the arm, do 2 white stained clay, then 1 dark grey wool, then 1 cyan stained clay. And like I said, again, that's just for 2 rows, so once you've done it to one, do the exact same thing to the row just below it. And what you want to end up with is something that should look exactly like that. Perfect, guys. Once you've got that taken care of on one side, we now want to mirror that exact same thing on the opposite side. So coming all the way up to the top left hand corner this time, we want to start off with a row of 4 diamond. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you have your row of 4 diamond, we're just going to be doing the exact same thing, either going from left to right or building solid rows of colour. So for the second row, do 1 block of diamond, 2 cyan stained clay, 1 block of diamond. For the next 2 rows, do 2 solid rows of cyan clay, so that'll be 1 and 2 right there. For the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. And for the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. For the next 2 rows, do 2 rows of white stained clay, so that's 1 and 2, just like that. Then for the next 2 rows, do 1 cyan clay, then 3 dark grey, and like I said, that's for 2 rows, so just do 1 and 2, like that. Then for the next row, do 1 cyan, 1 dark grey, 2 white clay, and that is also for 2 rows. So once you've got that first one done, do the exact same thing to that last row. And what you want to end up with in total is something that should look a little bit like this. And it's looking pretty good at the moment, guys, isn't it? It's a nice looking statue already. Once you've got that taken care of, this is what you want to do next, guys. So once the whole front of the statue is taken care of, and pause this if necessary, of course, we can now move on to the next bit. And look at the sun, by the way, guys. The sun looks as though it's his head. Thinknoodles no longer has that head anymore. It's just a bright beacon of sunshine. He may be Jesus. So what we now want to do is move all the way around to the back of the statue, come all the way down to the bottoms of the feet, take out your cyan stained clay and extend each one of these 2 corner light grey walls back, going towards where the back of the statue is going to be, each by 2 with your cyan clay. 1, 2, and 1, 2. And still going in the exact same direction, you also want to do a single light grey wall, so just add a light grey wall on the end there. What we now want to do is connect each one of these light grey walls together, and going from left to right, you want to do this. Do 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay. And what we've made there, once you have this, is the base of the statue. What we're now going to do is build up the entire back of the statue on top of these 8 back blocks that we have right here. Very much how we just built up the front of the statue, and then we will move on to the sides, and then we'll move on to the head, and then we'll be done. So, building up on top of this back row of 8 that we have right here, you want to kick this off with 2 rows of brown wool. So that'll be 1 and 2 solid rows of brown wool on top of that back row of 8. For the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. For the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan clay. For the next row, do 2 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 2 cyan clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next 2 rows, do 2 solid rows of cyan clay, so that'll be 1 and 2, exactly like that. For the next row, do 1 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 light grey, 2 cyan clay, 1 light grey. For the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool. For the next row, do an entire row of black wool. For the next row, place a single light grey on the ends of the row, and then do cyan stained clay everywhere else in between. For the next row, do an entire row of cyan stained clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 4 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 2 cyan clay, 2 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 4 cyan clay, 1 dark grey, 1 cyan clay. For the next row, do 3 cyan clay, 2 block of diamond, 3 cyan clay. For the next row, do 2 cyan clay, 1 block of diamond, 2 cyan wool, 1 block of diamond, 2 cyan clay. For the next row, do 1 cyan clay, 1 block of diamond, 4 cyan wool, 1 block of diamond, 1 cyan clay. For the next 2 rows, do 2 diamond on the ends of the row, coming up, and then do 2 solid rows of cyan wool in between them. So 2 diamond coming up on top of the left and right hand sides of the row, then cyan wool everywhere else in between. And for the final row of the back, just do an entire row of block of diamond, and what you'll want to end up with once it's finished is something that should look exactly like this. Perfect, guys, we're almost done. This is a cool looking statue. I really like this one. Once you've reached this point right here, all we have to do now to complete the back of the statue, guys, is the backs of the arms. And the backs of the arms, luckily for us, are identical to the fronts of the arms. So all you have to do to complete the backs of the arms is look directly forward at the fronts of the arms, and in the equivalent positions on the back, just place them exactly how you did on the front. That's all you have to do. Well, essentially, in layman's terms, block for block, copy what you have on the front of the statue onto the back of the statue, which is exactly what we're doing now, guys. We're literally just looking directly forward at what we've already made, and we're just copying it directly onto the back of the statue, and as you can see, that's what you want to have. It is as easy as that, guys. I wish I could speak a little better today, but hey, you know, you've got to roll with the punches. Maybe that'd fix me. Maybe I could just use a nice punch to the mouth, and maybe that'd fix a speech impediment that I'm developing, but as you guys can see, it's as easy as this. You just look directly forward at what you've already done on the front of the statue, and you've just got to copy block for block what you've done. Nice and quick process, simple as that, no instructions required. And what you want to end up with once you've finished is something that should look exactly like this. Nice and simple, guys, nice and simple. So, once you've reached this point right here, once the entire back of the statue has been fully completed, and obviously pause this if necessary if you're still working on it, we can now move on to the next bit. So we're now going to take care of the sides, guys. The sides are quite easy. So come to this side of the statue and come all the way down to the bottoms of the feet. What we're going to be doing now is we're just going to be filling in both of these blocks as one row, and we're just going to be building it all the way up to the top of the statue. So on top of this row of cyan right here, you want to kick off by doing 2 rows of brown wool. So that's 1 and 2, and we're just doing that in both these spaces. For the next row, do an entire row of light grey wool, which sounds silly as it's just 2 blocks. Then do 7 rows of cyan stained clay. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, of course, just to the right of it. Then to finish off the side of the legs, just finish it off with a single row of light grey wool. And what you'll want to end up with is something that should look exactly like this. 2 brown, 1 light grey, 7 cyan, 1 light grey. Moving up to the sides of the arm, so for the bottom of the hands, all you have to do is just colour match. So you guys can see where we have like the white stained clay, you want to place white stained clay. Where you have dark grey wool, you want to place dark grey wool. And where we have cyan, you want to place cyan. And then for the side of the arm here, we're now just filling this in exactly how we just filled in the side of the leg. So on top of this first row of cyan here, you want to stack 3 more rows of cyan clay. So that's 1, 2, 3. You then want to do 2 rows of white stained clay, 1, 2. Then do 1 row of light grey wool. Then do 4 rows of cyan stained clay, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then do a row of block of diamond, just like that. And since we're up here, guys, I will show you the whole side of the statue together. And since we're up here, just fill in the top of the shoulder here with cyan wool. You only have to come in by 3. You can come in by more, but don't come in less. Fill in the top of the shoulder with cyan wool. And let me just show you what that whole side of the statue wants to look like once you've actually completed it. There you go, guys. Very, very simple. Nothing much to it whatsoever. Once you've got that first side of the statue taken care of, we can now move on to the second side of the statue, which is exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to come onto this opposite side of the statue, and all we have to do to complete this side is look directly forward at that side that we have right there, and just copy exactly what we did, guys, which is exactly what I'm doing here. It's exactly how we just did the backs of the arms. Just look directly forward at what you've already done, and just copy exactly what you have. It's just easier that way, guys. It really is. I mean, I could go through the process again with you, but there'd be no real point. You may as well just look at what you've already made instead of adding time onto the video and a little bit of frustration for everybody. So we're just copying exactly what we have on that side, and we'll be good to go. So come all the way up to here, and then I know that it's diamond at the top, and then we can just cyan wool the top of this, and what we'll end up with once we've finished is something that should look a little bit like that. Perfect. Those are both of the sides of the statue 100% fully taken care of. Once you yourself have taken care of both sides of the statue, we can now move on to the final phase, which is the head. So once you've got that taken care of, and obviously pause this if necessary, of course, move all the way around to the front of the statue and come all the way up to the top of the torso. On top of the 8 middle blocks of the torso, stack yourself a row of 8 white stained clay, like so. Then in front of that row of 8 white stained clay, place an additional row of white stained clay. Then in front of that, place an additional row of cyan stained clay, like this. And this row of cyan stained clay is just the first row of Thinknoodles' face. What we're now going to do is build up the face from this cyan stained clay. Oh, and we also need another color, guys. I knew we'd need another color, but we only need the one. Get rid of your brown wool, you don't need it anymore, and grab yourself some pink wool. Perfect. Now, for the second row of Thinknoodles' face, going from left to right, do 1 white clay, 1 cyan clay, 1 white clay, 2 pink wool, 1 white clay, 1 cyan clay, 1 white clay. For the next row, do 2 white clay, followed by 4 cyan clay, followed by 2 white clay. For the next row, do an entire row of clay. White clay, that is, I should say. Just clay's a little vague. Do an entire row of white clay. For the next row, do 1 white clay, 2 white wool, 2 white clay, 2 white wool, 1 white clay. And as a matter of fact, once you've done that to one row, you now want to do the exact same thing to the row just above it as well. So where you have white clay, place white clay. Where you have white wool, place white wool. Now, to finish off the front of your Thinknoodles' face, all we have to do is 2 solid rows of dark grey wool. So that's 1 and 2 stacked directly on top of his eyes, and what you want to end up with is something that should look exactly like this. I know it looks a little weird at the moment, guys. Don't worry, we're about to fix it. So that is the face just about complete, but what we now have to do is add in some hair. So this hair is actually kind of like an abstract shape, and it's going to be easier if I kind of just like do it for you guys and then show you guys how it should actually look. It should be pretty simple to add in, having already done the face itself. So let me just add it in for you guys, and then I can show you. So once you've done the face itself, you then want to take out your dark grey wool, and you want to add this shape directly in front of the face. And that's just his hair, kind of like, he's kind of got a bit of a scruffy hairstyle going, it's just flopping down in front of his face. That's what the dark grey wool is. Now, once you've got that taken care of, we can now move on to the rest of the head. So once you have got that taken care of, pause this if necessary, of course, we can now move on to the next bit. So come all the way around to the back of the head, take out your white stained clay, and starting from this first initial row of white stained clay that we have right here, you want to extend this first row all the way back over the back of the statue until you overhang the back of the statue by 2 rows with your white stained clay. So that'll be 1 and 2, just exactly how it works on the front of the statue. So we're overhanging the back of the statue by 2 rows. Once you've got that taken care of, this is what we want to do next. So we now want to build up the back of the head exactly how we just built up the front of the head. So for the back of the head here, building up on top of this row right here, do an entire row of white stained clay. Then for the next row, place 2 white stained clay in the 2 center spots of the row, and then do dark grey wool everywhere else. What you can then do after you finish that row is 5 solid rows of dark grey wool. So that'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Perfect. That's the back of Thinknoodles' head. Once you've got that taken care of, we can now move on to the next bit. So coming to the left-hand side of his head first of all, this is what you want to do next. So, can you guys see in the bottom right-hand corner of the left-hand side of the head where we have this cyan stained clay? Well, what we want to do from this cyan stained clay is like 2 up left diagonals with our cyan clay. So that's kind of like 1 and 2, just like that. Then on top of that cyan stained clay, place a dark grey wool. Then extend that dark grey wool going left and right, just like this, so it kind of spans both sides of the head. And what you then want to do is like fill in this bottom section that we've now sectioned off with white stained clay, and you can fill that entire top section in with dark grey wool. You guys can see how we got to that point, right? 2 diagonals, dark grey on top, go left and right of it, then follow the bottom part in with white stained clay, and then the top part in with dark grey wool. Once you've done that to one side of the head, of course, we want to do the exact same thing to the opposite side of the head. So opposite side of the head here, 1, 2, dark grey wool on top, left, right with the dark grey, and then we can just proceed to fill this thing in. So what we have here is, of course, you guys might be able to tell the cyan is part of his facial hair. He's got a goatee going on, which most Minecraft characters seem to have, and then of course we move on to his actual hair. His goatee's a different shade than his actual hairstyle. And once you've got both sides of the head taken care of, all you have to do to finish off your statue is just completely fill the top of the head in here with dark grey wool, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. So we're just filling this in with dark grey wool, and bam, that is what you want to have for the head, guys, and that is exactly what you want to have for the entirety of the statue. Let's take a look at him now, shall we? So let's take off the UI, let's go off the hand, and we can take a look at our statue. I don't know whether it's because of how the light is, but he's kind of looking creepy here. So hopefully once you've finished filling in the head, you should be left with something that should look exactly like this. And this is your entire Thinknoodles statue 100% completed. I really like this statue, guys. I know that I say that about a lot of them, but this one I really like because I've not seen anything that has a design anything like this. I mean, I don't know what sort of content Thinknoodles puts out there, but he's got to be like a survival player or something. He's wearing really like practical futuristic gear. It's actually really cool. So hopefully you guys managed to make it. Hopefully you like the statue. I really do. He looks really cool. He does. If you do like it, I would really appreciate it if you could give me a like, favorite, share, anything you'd feel like doing to help me out. I would really appreciate, guys. Feel free to comment down below what other YouTubers you'd like to see me make. I go on these purely by suggestions. Feel free to check out the card system and the link below down in the description for my YouTubers statue playlist. I may also include a couple of other statue playlists as well, statue based ones, and I suppose that's it, guys. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.